buildings and grounds, just having been in education and been through building projects, but also personally being contracting 2 homes in addition. But I don't pretend to have the kind of background knowledge as somebody who spent their whole life. I know Scott has spent a lot of time in business and has construction knowledge, and this is a whole nother arena other than education. So I guess I'm just concerned that I want to make sure that we have somebody who has a working knowledge of building.
And you've come to I know you've come to some of those meetings, so
yeah,
you've seen.
Yeah, when Tom was leading and you were, you know, the support person. So for consistency, I can see, you know, the continuation of somebody who's been there and knows what we've been doing, but I don't want to lose the expertise of somebody who has a wealth of knowledge in buildings and grounds.
So, as the overarching on the committees, I think it's almost self-evident when we have someone who has decades of being a CPA and finance experience, and that obviously begs a finance chair. When we have someone who has 42 years of educational experience with 17 years of awards from the state of Ohio for educational performance, is that what it is, 17 awards? Then it's quite obvious that's a curriculum chair. And I've got 47 years in the construction industry, with 45 of those years being in business. This will be the 46th year. And I watched the last Buildings and Grounds meeting, and it concerned me a little bit about some of the information that was put forth. I think it would be vitally important that someone like myself chair that committee, for the very simple reason of my knowledge and experience and expertise, and my contacts with people that I know. And I'll get back to what concerned me. What was presented in the last Buildings and Grounds for the roof above the chemistry room that's been leaking for 3 years. The way it was presented would have cost us more than twice as much as the way that I know how to go ahead and solve that problem with a 20-year warranty from a multinational company that supplies building material products. So anyway, I think it's important to have someone like me chair that committee, because when Bialowski puts out $98 million that we need to spend, I know how to cut that to 50 right now.
So I just want to make sure, as chair, it doesn't bring any kind of
extra duties.
Right. So
let me finish, okay? So the knowledge and the expertise and the experience is vitally important if we're going to start in the right place and continue on through the discussion. And of course, the discussion involves all parties, including the community, and then to completion. Okay, so here's an example. I've been pushing to have the correct owner's agent hired by this district, excuse me, and it's not happened. So right now we have a construction project going on right now at the vestibule, right, with Lakeland Construction, and they've already made a mistake. That mistake would not have happened if we had an owner's agent in place. Okay, they've already made a mistake. We already had a problem. I don't know if anyone here on the board's aware of that. Ms. Grassi, you're on Buildings and Grounds. Are you aware of that?
I'm not clear on what you're saying.
Okay, so it's important to be connected, all right? So what I'm saying here is obvious who at the table has experience and should be chairing committees. And it's also very important that there's other input, right? You have diversity of thought and opinion, and you have everyone's ideas and thoughts coming to the table, because when Bialowski says we need to spend $98 million, that's a big deal. Okay, we don't have $98 million to spend. Okay, and how do we cut that? Well, when they made their presentation, I asked them, if your life depended on it, how would you go about cutting that to 70%? Well, they gave an idea. You can have some synergy when putting some projects together instead of a la carte all the way through. But they didn't have any more information than that. I have that information. So what I'm saying is, we have Ms. Brewster, who obviously is the curriculum chair. I don't think there's any thought about that. And I don't know if maybe Belinda doesn't want to have the finance chair with all the experience. You know, I don't know, but it begs that, and for myself, it begs the buildings and grounds. So I just wanted to put that on the table. I think if we're going to do the best for the taxpayers of this school district, I think we need to have the expertise in the correct place.
And I don't disagree. Again, I think it's going to be very important, I'd ask in a prior meeting, that we define what the roles and responsibility of our committees are. So I think that's going to be very important for us to bring back to the next meeting and make sure that we're defining that, because it's also important that the members show up and be present. Even if they're not the chair, they have to show up and be present for whatever committee they're on, to make sure we have that diversity of discussion too. So,
because that hasn't been the case.
And
I just want to make sure that, you know, like, we are, as a committee, is not that we're being mindful of the fact that the rest of the board has a say in matters that are so large and whatever, and the committee's not making decisions on what project we're going to do first or whatever. That's going to be board decision first and foremost. But
recommendation.
Right.
Recommendation.
Sure, and the recommendations carry a lot of weight because the board typically just votes on them. And there's not a whole lot of discussion. I've been on for 2 years. There's not a whole lot of discussion typically. There's usually, okay, this is what's been recommended, okay, we're voting on it. And so there's a lot involved in the being involved. Last week I spent 2 hours with Rich Arlesic. He's our maintenance supervisor up on the roofs here on the campus. And again, looking at that chemistry room roof leak and other roofs up here and discussing what can be done, how it would be done, how would we save money doing it, and then we went into electrical and other things too. So what I'm saying is, someone who has the knowledge, the know-how, the ability to go ahead and step in and start that ball in the right place, and then having an owner's agent that can pull everything together so we can chronologically move forward. And I know there's been pushback. We started that process of the owner's agent.
I want to save this conversation for a meeting. I just want to get through the organizational. So I think this is a great time.
We have the people in the right places
I don't disagree.
in order to have that conversation.
We don't disagree. So again, I think keeping Mrs. Grassi on, Mr. Fischel, I know that was your #1 choice. I did ask you to give me some.
What was my #2 choice?
Belly in the ground. So I would suggest let's put Mr. Fischel and Mrs. Grassi on buildings and grounds.
I would agree. I think the diversity of opinion and the fact that, I mean, you know, you have to know what questions to ask and really kind of have an idea of what the answer is if we're going to be spending taxpayer dollars.
And you also have to understand the financing.
Yes,
I am
absolutely.
going to continue to reiterate, though, that participation in committee meetings is crucial.
Right.
You know, when you don't show up for 50% of the meetings, and then 50% of the time that you do show up, you leave early. It doesn't lend itself to good committee discussion. I have a philosophical issue with that, so I want to make sure that people understand that if we set meetings, we need to participate and we actually need to do it, not just because you're interested or whatever, but because you are now on a committee.
I would say Ms. Brewster as chair for the curriculum and programming.
Thank you.
Wow, the educator.
Smart. Makes sense.
Ms. Harden?
Yes.
I know that wasn't one on your top of your list. Are you interested in curriculum and programming?
That's fine.
We'll put her as the member for curriculum and programming.
Okay,
Ms.
who's the
Harden?
member?
Ms. Harden.
Harden.
Brings us to finance, audit, personnel. Ms. Grassi.
I feel strongly about the personnel part of that, which is why I want to be on that committee.
So again, I think it's important that we have some diversity of thought.
I understand that,
so-
but everyone else is going to,
Sure.
like, I feel strongly about
Okay.
that for myself.
Are you, Ms. Grassi, good? I think you're good. Mr. Plato will run for his money anyways, no matter what, so.
At one point, we did have committees lined up where the chair and the vice chair were, two of the committees were flip-flops, so you know, also double meetings, there's also that. But I know that some, we didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
Not
Ms.
just
Brewster, I think finance and audit is a really good one your first year to learn the wonderful world of school finance.
Well, and yeah, I'm familiar with it, and yeah, the personnel aspect of it too would be a good one. So so Jen would be the chair and I would be the
Member? Oh,
Member.
Chuck would be so pleased.
All right.
That brings us to Ms. Grassi being chair of the policy committee,
So fine.
and Mr. Fischel will be the member. All right, so just to go over real quick, we have finance audit personnel chairperson, Ms. Harden, member, Ms. Brewster, policy chairperson, Ms. Grassi, member is Mr. Fischel, curriculum and programming chairperson, Ms. Brewster, member is Ms. Harden, buildings and grounds chairperson is Mr. Fischel, and member is Ms. Grassi. Did I get everything?